told Amanda I didn't really need her here tonight since it was gonna be so short. Oh, I'm gonna put the ladies room away.
We won't start with that.
Ignore her. I'm like, yes. For next time. My friend. Seriously. You guys were sitting there. I was kind of how did the tables get assigned? I'm like, no problem. Filled him in on everything I know. And some of you guys are gonna like it.
2-minute warning.
So today I went to my ortho appointment and they took, I have these things in front of my braces. They took them off today. And then they did like this very high now and I just barely,
Oh no.
I can't even do anything right now. I really don't get snacks. So my whole mouth hurts. And I do go there because my we have a IGF. Oh, yeah.
Hey Fred, you wanna grab everybody? We'll get started in like a minute and a half.
Well, great job, Scott. That was an interesting conversation.
It's easy when you have kind of technical.
I did confirm those dates for you.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. That is perfect.
That's a good idea. And I can have a healing center.
Oh my
You
Lord.
guys get stuck. As long as you share, Laura.
As long as you're exactly, yep.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was great. Yep.
Hang on, Fred's opening his snack.
Should hopefully go pretty quick.
Oh, yeah,
So,
so,
Notice I opened mine under the
where did
table.
we play this?
Oh my God.
Smooching to be around.
Listen
Okay.
here.
Ready on the left?
Yes.
Ready. Ready on the right? All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for March 7, 2023. I'm Mark Clark, the mayor. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Castle.
Here.
Councilmember Spear. Here. Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Councilmember Neal.
Present.
Councilmember Mortensen.
Here.
Councilmember Providence.
Here.
All right. All right, first thing that we have two proclamations for this evening. The first one I'm going to read is the National Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month for 2023. And whereas there is a growing population of children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, also known as IDD, who reside in the city of Evans. And whereas historically people with intellectual developmental disabilities were institutionalized and or segregated from their families and communities. And whereas in 1987, President Ronald Reagan officially declared March to be Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, the theme of the National Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month was decreed that, quote, Americans are becoming increasingly aware that such disabilities need not keep individuals from realizing their full potential in schools, at work, or at home, as such members of their families and of their communities. And whereas the ARC of Weld County proudly supports the National Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Now, therefore, I, Mark C. Clark, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Evans, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2023 as Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the city of Evans, and encourage all citizens to support programs that serve people with intellectual developmental disabilities, and to ensure that all people with disabilities are treated with dignity and respect that they so desire and deserve. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be the official seal of the city of Evans the 7th day of March 2023. And I will present this to Tiffany, Kathy, and Bobby. If you please come forward. Absolutely. Actually, if you want to come in, we'll get some as well.
Okay.
Now we're just going up over here. Thank you. There you go. That's for you. Thank you very much. You don't have to, but if you'd like to.
She wanted to say something?
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I just want to say, as a young child, my dad used to work for ARC, and he used to help, adults and place them in jobs. And as a child, I would go to his job, and I would help, and I would do like crafts. So that kind of started my path to public service, because being able to have the compassion and really empathize, with our community, especially a vulnerable community, was something that was near and dear to my heart. So this is great. Thank you, and well deserved.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, you too. Thanks for coming.
You guys.
All right, our next proclamation is for Arbor Day of 2023. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautification of our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Evans will be recognized for the 39th year as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now, therefore, I, Mark C. Clark, Mayor of the City of Evans, do hereby proclaim April 20th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the City of Evans, and encourage all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be the official seal of the City of Evans, Colorado, the 7th day of March 2023. And Efren, still here. I will present this to you, sir.
Very dapper.
All right, next item on the agenda is audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address city council on any item that is not on the agenda or of a public hearing? If so, please step forward to the podium. Seeing none, we'll go on. Next item, approval of the agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mayor.
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item, consent agenda. Item number 3, approval of the February 21st, 2023 City Council meeting minutes.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 4, new business. Continuation of public hearing, consideration of new beer and wine liquor license for Pandaria Quetzal LLC at 3607 23rd Avenue in Evans. And I will open up the public hearing. We'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The business for that has applied for this new liquor license had requested a continuance from tonight's public hearing to March 21st. I had already published the notice in the newspaper, so therefore we did have to open the public hearing tonight. However, their request for the continuance was based on they were still gaining signatures on their petition and did not have the sign posted timely at the location. So,
Perfect. Sounds good. I would entertain a motion to continue.
I move to continue the public hearing for the liquor license application made by Panaderia Quetzal LLC to March 21st, 2023.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing for the liquor license application made by Pandaria Quetzal LLC to March 21st, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, item number 5, consideration of resolution number 10-2023 to approve an intergovernmental agreement for treated water services between the city of Greeley, Colorado and the city of Evans, Colorado. And we will hear from staff.
Good evening, Council. While the PowerPoint presentation pops up, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to present what we believe to be the final draft of this agreement that's been under consideration and under drafting by city staff, Greeley staff, and both attorneys' offices for several months now. This has been before you. This will be the third occasion, I believe, 2 other work sessions, as well as careful consideration by both your Water and Sewer Board and the Greeley Water and Sewer Board. This agreement does take the place of an agreement that expires in April of this year. It was a 25-year agreement. This new IGA will supersede that 1998 agreement and will be now a 10-year agreement with automatically renewing 5-year terms unless there are amendments. So this next agreement would go from 2023 through 2033 and then automatically renew unless it's amended in some way. It does cover the means and the methods by which the transfers of Evans raw water is treated by Greeley and then delivered back to Evans at several master meters along the city limit lines. It sets the cost of service along the way, the rate for monthly billing for potable water. It sets the rate of payment for exceeding the current treatment cap that's referred to as the system development charge, and allows Evans to purchase treated water from other suppliers. So in this way, it's a non-exclusive contract. And that is a major change from previous agreements that basically said we could only purchase water from Greeley. And one of the questions that councils had in the past also was whether this agreement would preclude Evans from prepaying that SDC. No, the answer to that is no. Evans at any time can make SDC payments, and we would like to come back to you at a point later on, probably early this summer, with some alternatives to consider, the pros and cons of making some economic decisions about prepaying a certain amount of SDCs to take advantage of lower rates now than will be in the future. Points of delivery for the treated water, as I mentioned, are going through those multiple master meters. At that point, it becomes Evans water, and Greeley gives all of the water authority to us. Those meters are owned by Greeley and then maintained, paid for by Evans. Evans provides all of the potable water requirement projection projections each year for a rolling 5-year period. So every year, beginning a month from the time that you adopt this new agreement, on an annual basis, there'll be a 5-year projection of the amount of water that Evans needs. It clarifies that the raw water shrinkage will be discussed and evaluated every year. This had been in the old agreement a fixed formula, but there's a recognition now that all water is not the same, and raw water from one ditch or from one source may be different than another in terms of its shrinkage. It allows each city to develop its own policies in the event of drought, or in the event of need to reduce demand, do our own conservation methods. The rates are reviewed annually, and there will be every 5 years a cost of service model that Greeley will do with Evans' participation and evaluation. And it changes the peak demand factor calculation, so it's an average. It's spread out over 5 years instead of the old 2-year formula. The system development charges that Evans pays, it's clarified in this agreement that does not allow Evans acquired rights into the Greeley's water system. It does reserve a certain portion of that system, everything from the treatment capacity to the transmission and the distribution to that master meter. It assumes that Evans benefits or touches about 75% of the Greeley water system infrastructure. And so instead of paying for all of it, there's a reduction there, a reduction in that formula. And the previous agreement used a higher average demand figure for residential demand per unit, and didn't specify that the residential demand changes over time. So now it's a fluctuating formula that does allow changes as we go. So as I mentioned, this is, I believe, the 3rd time that you've seen this. It's gone through a number of changes, a number of drafts, as we've exchanged ideas with Greeley staff and attorneys from May through November of last year. In December of last year, the first look at this by your Water and Sewer Board. In January, the draft was presented to you, along with responses to the questions and concerns that you had earlier in the year in 2022. Last month was very busy. The draft was presented to the Greeley Water and Sewer Board, and they made a recommendation for approval on February 15th. The very next day, the Evans Water and Sewer Board reviewed it and made a unanimous recommendation for approval. So it is before you tonight for your consideration. This is resolution number 10, 2023. Staff is recommending that you approve that resolution and thereby approve this intergovernmental agreement. Your doing so would present this then to the Greeley City Council for final consideration and adoption on March 21st. Thank you. I'd be happy to field any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments for staff?
I do.
Go ahead.
Randy, do you happen to know if Greeley's planning on doing a tour of the facilities this year?
They have told us it's an open invitation. If you all would like to tour those facilities, they will arrange it. So.
That'd be great.
Well, they normally have set up so that their residents can go and tour.
I'll find out when those set tours are, and then
I'm pretty sure that a lot of the council hasn't been able to do that if they're interested. So that's why I'm asking.
So my question, and I'm sorry if I skipped over it and did not see it, but are there any penalties in this contract if Greeley does not provide the water to us? And in particular, if they have a problem and their water's down and for some reason we aren't getting water, do we have a clause on there that we don't pay for the water we aren't getting?
We only pay for the water that we receive.
Okay.
And there are notice requirements, and I'll call it shared pain, if you will, that if there's an absolute need for a reduction, there'll be a volumetric kind of shared reduction so that they will not shut Evans off and just provide water to Greeley.
Okay.
So if they need to reduce production, need to reduce distribution, we'll share equally in that reduction.
All right. Thank you.
Any other additional questions or comments? I just want to say, this is it's a lot better IGA than we've had in the past. I really appreciate all the staff that put all the time and effort into this. I know sitting on the Water and Sewer Board meetings as well, they were very happy with the product that came out of this and how the two communities work together to make this IGA work out for each other. So thank you to all of you involved. I appreciate it, and I'm in favor of this. So if there's no additional comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Mark?
Yeah, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I would like to thank this council and the staff for finally addressing this issue. It's been a sore point for many, many years in Evans, and I think that they've really cut a lot out of that, and they've made the agreement more equitable between Greeley and Evans, and I think it's something that this council should be proud of, and the staff, and both staffs, both Greeley and Evans staff,
Absolutely.
seem to work pretty well to get this agreement made and make it more equitable for both communities.
Yeah, I think this IGA definitely safeguards our interest. And so I think it's definitely great that instead of having a term of 25 years, that's been significantly reduced, which helps us substantially. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 10-2023 to adopt the intergovernmental agreement for treated water service between the city of Greeley, Colorado and the city of Evans, Colorado.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 10-2023 to adopt the intergovernmental agreement for treated water services between the city of Greeley, Colorado and the city of Evans, Colorado. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item, item number 6, consideration of resolution number 11-2023 to approve an intergovernmental agreement with Weld County for improvements to Two Rivers Parkway, and we'll hear from staff.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So Weld County is in the process, if you haven't noticed, they're working on Two Rivers Parkway right now. They got started a little earlier than I originally anticipated. But when they were planning this project, they approached me and they said, "Hey, Mark, Two Rivers Parkway, the section that's in Evans, is in pretty bad shape. Would you like to work on it and make it one continuous road improvement from 37th all the way down to 396 and into Milligan?" And I said, "Sure. How much?" And they said, "Well, we'll be willing to do all the work." And actually, Weld County personnel are doing all the work. All their equipment are doing the work. So all we have to do is pitch in for the asphalt, basically, and we've estimated the asphalt at about $75,000, and that's what this agreement stipulates, is that we pay for the asphalt. So when they're done with the project, we'll get a bill for the asphalt. It might be less than 75, but 75 is the limit as listed on the agreement and in the resolution. So we're making a recommendation that this IGA be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from staff?
Mark, remind us how long this patch is projected to last.
3 to 5 years, but we also anticipate the development of Solstice, and when that happens, the road will be fully developed and fully improved with curb gutters, sidewalks, etc. So it's a Band-Aid, yes, but it's in pretty bad shape, and and it gets a lot of traffic, so that's why we have one continuous stretch. We thought it was a good use of the money.
So, Mark, just for the record, for people who may be watching or listening that are unfamiliar with Two Rivers Parkway, what street would that also be known as?
County Road 71.
Okay.
I think this is a great benefit for our community. I mean, they're providing all of the labor and all of the equipment. All we're doing is paying for the asphalt. I think it's a win-win for us, so I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, likewise.
There's no additional questions or comments. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 11-2023 to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Weld County for the Two Rivers Parkway project and to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 11-2023 to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Weld County for the Two Rivers Parkway project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. All right. Moving on, item number 7, 37th Street widening phase 1 construction contract, and we will hear from staff.
Good evening again, Mayor, members of council. So this project has been a long time coming. We put the advertisement out for bids in December, and we received 7 bids, ranging from 3.6 million up to just over $5 million. The low bid came from Alpine Civil Construction. They're a Denver-based outfit. They've recently done a lot of residential work, development type work, but their staff has worked with some of the larger contractors over the years and done a lot of work on I-25, including work at the Crossroads Boulevard up by the event center. We didn't know them. We'd seen them at a few pre-bids before, but we didn't know them. So I asked them for references both on their private side and on their public side. And I got 12 different references. I called every single one of them. I got positive responses from all of them, including the municipalities that they worked in. And all their developers have repeatedly used them over and over again in terms of their product. They self-perform. One of the advantages and why they can do this for a lot less money is they self-perform everything: the utility work, the concrete work, the asphalt work, and they have a sub-city area that does the landscaping. So their subcontractor costs are minimal, so that keeps their costs down. We've met with them in person. We've introduced them to our construction management team, and we're had discussions today with the respective utilities because there's some utility coordination that's got to happen as part of the process at the beginning of the project. And Alpine has answered all of our questions satisfactory. I think they have the capability of doing this job very well, and we're recommending that that you approve this contract. And as you note in the staff memo, there's about $300,000 in savings off of our budget after you take into account all the necessary costs associated with the contract. So what we'd like to do with that $300,000, because we're diverting traffic during the closure down to 49th Street. And 49th Street, if you haven't driven it in a while, it's probably worse than Two Rivers Parkway. I think, Leon, if I remember correctly, Leon said the PCI in that area was between 20 and 30. So we'd like to use that $300,000 to do some skin patching in that area. Again, it's a Band-Aid to keep to extend the road's life a little bit further, because we're hoping that the final road improvements will happen with future development happening to the west. So that's what we'd like to do with some of those savings as far as from this project, to take that money and put it towards 49th Street. Because at the end of the day, when the closure is completed, 49th Street will have seen a lot more traffic, so that it'll just get torn up even more over the next 3 months. So the closure, as you may know, the closure is 60 working days. So from the day they start, and working days are considered Monday to Friday, they have 60 working days to complete all the work within the closure, which means the asphalt, curb gutter, sidewalk, the median, and the roundabout itself, everything in the roundabout. And the peripherals can happen within the 90 working days. They're committed to getting it done as quickly as possible, because there's damages on the back end if they exceed the closure, but there's also an incentive if they beat the closure. I've been very impressed with their performance so far in terms of coordinating through the process, through the bidding process, and getting to know them and learning about their backgrounds and whatnot. So we're recommending approval of the contract, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Good forward thinking too on that 49th Street. Any questions or comments from staff?
I do, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilor
I'll be
Neal.
last.
Go ahead.
I'll be last.
No, go ahead. No, I'll go.
No, go.
Shoot, I forgot.
Okay,
Forgot what I
never
was gonna
mind.
ask you. Good
Councilmember
Lord, no.
Spear, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so there's a considerable difference between the lowest and the next highest bidder. And so you answered some of my questions regarding that they have their own, they don't have to subcontract out. My concern, when you called and got the referrals, I'm pretty sure you may have asked, but I'm just asking you to be sure, that they weren't bidding lower and then doing change orders later on, because we've seen that happen a lot too, is where we give them the lowest bidder the bid, and then we're change order after change order after change order, and then now we're above what the next bidder was. So were there a lot of change orders on their previous projects?
I did ask that question, and they didn't have any change orders on a lot of those projects. And even with the municipalities, when the municipalities went in and said they're doing a private subdivision, so they're doing work that's gonna eventually be taken over by Fort Lupton, Erie, they said they were very, okay, we'll fix it. We did it wrong, we'll fix it, and they just did it. So there was no complaining, there was no whining. And their developers, all to the one, said we'd hire them back. So they also didn't have any change orders because they trusted these guys to do the work right for them.
Okay. And so they are familiar then, I imagine that you talked to them a little bit in the RFP session, that we have some challenging substrate, some soil that seems to be a little more challenging to places, to contractors. And that's always been an issue too. So are we taking into the consideration our kind of shifty, sandy soil that doesn't like to have
in this
new
location,
streets?
we don't have those soils that you saw out here. We don't have those same soils that you saw out here with the sugar sand. In the 47th Street area, 37th, 47th, the soil is more sandy, but not the same kind of sand. When we were doing all the trenching up on 47th, we didn't have any issues of trenches collapsing.
Okay, because we had it at 35th.
Yeah, on 35th we did. We had some soft soils on 35th, yes. And we know that, and we're planning for that as we get further east on 37th. We know that we're going to deal with stuff further east on 37th. We do know, and they did ask me directly, he said, Mark, do you know if there's any base underneath this road? And I said, I don't think so, but I'll check. And they asked me that a couple of days ago. So we went back and we looked at the scans, and the scans indicate there's no base underneath the road. And we also had photos from the 47th Street project, which when we opened up the trench, all you can see is asphalt and then dirt. Wow. So they were very conscientious about what they're getting into. So they know what they're getting into work-wise. We've been coordinating with them as far as the material they're going to pull, because we have a very big pile over at First Avenue that they're going to use some of that material. We also pre-planned the material that's on the west side of the water quality pond on the Arrowhead Lake property is material is good base material that they'll strip off all the organics on the top, and then they'll move that into the embankment. So we've been working well with them on the geotechnical side, and they had all that information up front during the bidding purposes as well.
Okay. So my other question is, and I do know that 49th is going to see the traffic, and we need to patch it because there would be a lot more complaints if they're having to four-wheel across it. My concern, though, and I just want to voice my concern, is pre-spending money that we think we're going to save when, we haven't completed the project. And like I said, in the past, we've had change orders where we're spending more money. So I agree that it needs to be done. I just don't want to go overboard with spending the money that is potentially being saved but hasn't been saved yet.
Just to be clear, the $300,000 is above the contingency. So that's where the $300,000 comes from. So we have a 10% contingency on top of their $3.6 million contract. So that's where the $300,000 comes from. So I already have. And then within the $3.6 million contract, there's a $100,000 force account, which is a CDOT requirement on all of our projects, and it's just the amount of it is stipulated by the size of the project. So in this case, we have $100,000 at the get-go. So if there are any minor changes, those can be handled with that $100,000. And then on top of that, we have another $360,000. So the total not to exceed contract amount is around $4 million. And the $300,000 savings is above that in the overall budget of the project.
Okay.
So I believe we won't spend it if we don't have it. And just to be clear, the patching or the work done on 49th Street will be done after the paving is completed of 37th and 47th. So and at that point, we'll be 75% done with the project at that point. So we'll know how much money we have to save, and we won't spend any more than we have actually saved.
So we're going to go through, though, 49th and make sure that the rerouted traffic, they're not going to encounter any major potholes or cracks or anything that are going to get worse or damage vehicles, people even more upset about having a detour, and now they're having, to four-wheel through there.
Well, they're going to get worse during the construction, but we didn't think it made sense to one lane the road while we were detouring all that traffic over there. And then I think the majority of people are gonna detour up to 34, but there will be some that will take 49th. And we didn't think it made sense for them to try to close it down to one lane, even if it was for 300 yards sections, to do a long skin patch when that detour is happening. Because all that additional traffic is coming down that road. So what we're thinking right now is the plan is to do it towards the end of the project or the end of the actual closure when they're out there paving, so they can get over to, when they're finished the paving, they move over to 49th, and then we have a nice new 49th at the end of the project.
Okay.
We can look at doing it sooner, but I think that the disruption to traffic
No, I
would be
just wanted
hard.
to make sure like there weren't any potholes. I'm not
There
talking
are
about
potholes
paving
and-
it.
Yeah, there are potholes, and Leon and I are gonna go out and walk it.
Okay.
And verify the locations that we wanna do based on the maximum $300,000 savings. And the plan is to work from the bridge going west. And we may skip a little bit here and there because part of that is, even it's our road, it's partly Weld County and partly Evans. So we may look at that in terms of what actual sections we work on. And we'll try to do the worst ones first and then work our way down.
Any other additional questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'm sorry. There's a lot of things, dates and closures and all of that rolling around. So I want to make sure I have this clear. So we are looking at the closure will be from 47th to east of Sienna.
Yes.
Okay. And then with that closure, if you're rerouting traffic to 49th, will that coincide with the Two Rivers project also?
Yes. So the detours will be at 35th Avenue and 65th Avenue, the major detours.
Okay.
So at 65th, if you're coming into town, there'll be a sign that says Arrowhead traffic only at 65th.
Okay.
And then at 35th Avenue, it will say local traffic only. And then the closure will actually happen just east of Sienna Avenue, and then just east, or just west of Cheyenne, I believe it is, in Arrowhead. So the Arrowhead people have known about this. We've had two meetings with them, and they're in favor of it, because this is saving us a lot of money, even without the low bid, because we don't have to build throwaway roads. We don't have to maintain traffic control through the construction. And it's a whole lot safer for the contractor. He can work a lot quicker. We've already gotten our approvals for CDOT to put the message boards out on 34 to let people know that, hey, people, don't come down this way. Because, you know, if you're coming in 34 from the west and you get to 47th and the light turns red, sometimes I jump down 47th so I can make it to the office quicker. Well, I'm not going to, I could do that, but I'd have to go through the neighborhood, so I won't do that.
Right.
But that's the thing we're going to try to avoid. We know we're always going to get some initial looky-loos the first week of the project, but it's going to be hard closed in that sector. And if you've seen the mailing that went out, there's those red lines in the middle, and that's the section that's going to be hard closed. And if you don't have a construction truck sign on it and you go in there, we're going to kick you out.
Okay.
All the guys have to go turn their lights on when they go in there to make sure that the John Q. public doesn't follow us into the job site.
And when is this anticipated closure? Sorry.
Right now, we're looking at starting on March 20th, and the closure will begin that day.
Of 23.
This year. Yeah, this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I'm concerned about that. So just trying to plan my day.
Okay.
But the last question I have then is well, I guess we'll see. I do worry about people cutting through Tuscany.
Yeah.
It's already a pain, gigantic pain to get out of there in the mornings. Now, I'm kind of hoping the closure to Sienna will actually help, because turning left will be a little bit easier.
You won't have any westbound traffic in the morning.
Yeah, but I do worry about that. The other concern I have, which if Sienna is the only one closed, we're okay, because the school, Hyman's drop off, you have to come in from 37th to appropriately get into their drop off, but that shouldn't be impacted.
And we've been in constant contact with the school.
Yeah.
So they're aware of that, and they know that's happening, and we've been in touch with Kent and the principal.
I guess the only other concern I would have is, of the ways out of Tuscany, there's if I want to go on to 37th, I can go to 47th, but that's not going to work. I can go to Sienna, but that's not going to work. Or I can go up, but then I have to go by the school. So that's my only concern, I guess. There's going to be probably a lot heavier traffic.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, just talking through that in my head, and the timing is.
But that's why we're trying to that's why we did this, so that we could keep the construction as quick as possible, because otherwise I think you would, the construction would last, and we did this back when we were first planning this. We're gonna do this, the majority of the work will be done in 60 working days, so 2 months, or 10 weeks, 12 weeks.
3 months.
And then the road will be open, and the peripheral work can happen. If we had done this with standard, open the road, keep traffic going, it'd probably take an extra 2 months and might cost us almost an additional, and I looked at that calculation this morning, but I don't remember the number, but several $100,000 more on top of what we're doing. And that would be throwaway money. We don't get it, it's stuff we just have to put in temporarily and then take out.
So my question for you is, we're talking about a 60-day hard closure. Now, given the fact of when it's going to start, we usually have some pretty wild weather.
Yes.
End of March through April,
Yes.
even through the first couple of weeks of May. Are they prepared, if they have weather that they're unable to work, that they're gonna work longer hours and weekends to meet that 60-day deadline?
Well, if they have a weather day, we're not gonna count that against the 60 days. So the weather days, if they happen, and they will happen, we haven't budgeted that in, but they've already told us they're gonna work Saturdays. They're planning on working Saturdays. So it may go longer because of weather, but the other thing is we're getting to the end of March.
Right.
So then the majority of the big snow happens in the first 3 weeks, so we're starting in the third week. So
Right.
we're hopeful that this will reduce our weather days at the beginning of the project, and this can move a lot quicker. And during the utility work, they can work, the storm sewer and the water line, they can do that kind of work in any kind of weather almost. It's the road work that they can't really do in really cold weather, so.
Yeah, my concern is, we're telling 60 days hard closure, then it winds up being 70, 75.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a pretty.
Right.
Yeah, I think we really need to stick to that, and I was thinking that today as I tried to get here was late because 37th was down to one lane,
Yeah.
so I couldn't get out of Tuscany, so I had to go the only other way that doesn't hit 37, which is way down through Ashcroft up. So it's not an easy neighborhood to get out of. So selfishly, I'm concerned. But then beyond that, forget me, I can get out. It's people who are in Grapevine Hollow and further west that have to come through. I think we're going to have, because there's Ann K. Hyman, Chapelo, Centennial, you kind of go down the list of schools that people drive that way for. I think it's going to be hypercritical because we're doing this during the school year.
And we've stressed that to them over and over. And the first thing this morning when we were talking, guys, I said, this is the most critical project we're building in Evans in years.
Yeah.
The next one's gonna be bigger. But we won't talk about that till it happens. But this is, and they understand that, and we said, one of the definitions of success for Evans Engineering is that we want to work with this company again. And if you don't perform, we don't want to work with you again. So that's not a successful project, and these guys are interested in a successful project.
Any other additional questions or comments? Fred, did you remember?
Well, Laura covered some of it.
Okay.
But I got confused on when you're gonna do the skin patches on 49th. You're not gonna do those until after the work on.
Two things. We determined that if we try to do it during the closure, we're gonna be restricting traffic, a lot more traffic to one lane.
Right.
With flaggers, which really would mess people up and make people mad. And then secondly, the road's gonna get beat up with all that additional traffic. So for us to just come in and patch it while the traffic's on it, all that additional traffic, the Band-Aid's not gonna last nearly as long.
Yeah.
So if we come in after the fact, at the end of the project, and we come in and do as much as we can with the savings that we do end up having, we'll have a better product that'll last longer.
Well, and I figured once you finally mentioned the beginning road closure date, it's like, well, I guess they can't go in there and do that, do 49th Street first, but it still needs to be done.
Yes, and that's what we thought was a good use of the money. That's why we're asking.
And I agree with that.
Great job. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
All right, if there are no additional questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
I move to award the 37th Street widening Phase 1 contract with Alpine Civil Construction in the amount of $3,643,667.50 with a contingency of $364,332.50 to be used only with city manager approval for a not to exceed contract of $4,008,000 and to authorize the use of up to $300,000 in savings in the overall project budget for road maintenance work on 49th Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to award the 37th Street widening Phase 1 contract with Alpine Civil Construction in the amount of $3,643,667.50 with a contingency of $364,332.50 to be used only with city manager approval for a not to exceed contract amount of $4,008,000 and to authorize the use of up to $300,000 in savings in the overall project budget for road maintenance on work on 49th Street. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next item, item number 8, consideration of the 2023 traffic signal maintenance contract, and we will hear from staff.
Okay, so the last time any of you saw this contract, it was 2006. This contract has been in place since 2006, so we thought it was about time we put it back out there and get it updated. When I got here, we were just keep rolling on it, and so this year we finally got around to it. We put it out to bid to the local contractors. We got 2 bids, one from Luminate and one from Lighthouse, and they were really close together, only different by about $3,000. We have $40,000 budgeted each year for this service, and the last 3 years we haven't even come close to using that entire $40,000. But one of the things we found out as the old contract was they were actually only required to come up here quarterly, which was problematic when we'd have lights out and we wanted them fixed sooner. So this year we said, let's fix that. So now it is a monthly inspection that they're going to do, and then an annual update where they'll go through and they'll do a little more intensive testing on some of the controllers and whatnot. And you'll see in the next 3 to 4 months, you'll see another project coming forward before you to award the installation of the new cabinets, which we're purchasing, which will not arrive until April. So these guys would potentially bid on that as well. But what we're recommending that this contract be approved and awarded to Luminate. They are the same firm that we've been working with over the last few years, so they're very familiar with our system. And they do good work, and they've agreed to this dollar amount and the monthly inspections and then the final annual inspection with the additional testing. And then the contract is for $24,145, and the remaining budget will be used for emergencies and materials if we need them for specific parts and pieces for the light maintenance. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments?
You're expecting almost $16,000
Not expecting, because we haven't even come close to that budget amount in the last 3 years since I've been here. So that's available. So we always have that line item up to $40,000 in our maintenance budget, and we've never spent all of it.
Councilman Neal, so you had your hand raised.
I'm glad to see that this contract has been finally updated, and the customer service part of it has been improved upon by the company. So I'm looking forward to having less problems with burnout light bulbs and things. Replacement.
I agree with that. Any other additional questions, comments? Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
I move to award the 2023 traffic signal maintenance program contract in the not to exceed amount of $40,000 to Lumen 8.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to award the 2023 traffic signal maintenance program contract in the not to exceed amount of $40,000 to Luminate. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, next item, report, city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I have 3 items for you for the City Council tonight. Number 1, reminder of our economic development strategic planning work session scheduled for this Saturday, March 11, 2023, 9 a.m. to noon at the Riverside Library Boardroom. The second one, Mayor, you and I have a meeting this Friday morning. Immediately following that meeting, I'm gonna be out of the office the rest of the day. My last pod is coming into town from Wichita, so I'm gonna get that unloaded because I've got about a day to do that, and then they charge me for another month. So, for whatever reason, it's taken a while to get it into town. But also, my wife and children are coming into town that afternoon, so I'm trying to get everything ready, trying to get the bachelor pad cleaned up a little bit. So I will be available by cell phone, however, if needed. And then lastly, registration is now open for the 2023 CML conference in Aurora, scheduled for June 25th through the 28th. If you would, please let either Julie or I know of your interest to go to that, and we will get you registered. So, Mr. Mayor, with that, I will turn it back over.
All right, thank you. All right, City Attorney.
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Awesome, great, thank you. All right, next item, audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address City Council on any item? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.